Good morning. It is 6 o'clock in the morning. 4 hours and 40 minutes of sleep. I'm here because Joe, the community manager, gave me suspicious gifts when I said, should I be live at 6 a.m.? So I'm here. He did say, do not expect a new trailer. Do not expect new monster reveals. Yeah. But it is about an hour of updates that the devs are making to the game ready for launch, which is kind of nutty. So, shall we jump into it? I'm going to turn off alerts and alert sounds, and here we go. We're a couple minutes behind because it's 6 a.m. I'm tired.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Monster Hunter Wilds pre-launch community update. My name's Jono, EME Community Manager on Monster Hunter.
Woohoo!
Hey everybody, I'm Joe. I'm the Capcom USA Community Manager on Monster Hunter.
Okay, I'm not
and
covering
welcome
anything.
to our
Good.
broadcast, which for the very first time will be bilingual in English and Japanese, which is a brand new concept for us. So we hope you enjoy it. And you'll probably not be surprised to find out why we're having it in English and Japanese, because as you can see, we have two very special guests with us. We have Monster Hunter Wilds director Yuya Tokuda, as well as Patrick from Capcom Europe, who will be translating for us. It's great to have you guys. Thank you so much for coming. Now, Joe, we've introduced our esteemed guests. We've said hello, but why are we here today?
Yeah, today is a really special stream. Again, we have some special guests here joining us, and we would like to share a sincere thank you to everybody out there who participated in the open beta test that we held at the end of October. And today we're going to be spending some time talking about how a lot of the feedback from that open beta has influenced the development of the main game. So just to kind of recap, the open beta was held with a couple of goals. The first, I think the most obvious one is we were able to give everybody a chance to play the game.
Yes.
New hunting experience, new game.
I would like it again.
It was great seeing everybody's responses. But the second part of that was really to test the different technology that's in the game, things like network load and game operation. So it was really great to see everybody's feedback and responses. But the team has really been working on the full game separately and making a lot of improvements and adjustments. And again, we just want to share thanks to everybody for sharing your feedback either through social media, our official survey, or through different places online. And while a lot of that feedback covered some known issues and things that we originally already planned to address in the final version of the game, a lot of the feedback actually covered some bugs and things that the team was not aware of or didn't intend to fix. So it was extremely helpful. And some of those fixes and adjustments are now prioritized for the final game, thanks to your feedback. And we're going to talk about a lot of that today.
Hi, everyone.
Jono, we actually had a round of previews go live recently, right? And that actually had some details that we're going to discuss today.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the community response to that was fantastic. So if you have seen the previews, you will recognize some of the content in today's broadcast, but there is so much more. And on top of that as well, this stream is an opportunity for the development team to speak directly to you, to introduce even more and clarify what you may have seen in the previews as well. But please do keep in mind that this isn't fully comprehensive. There's even more adjustments to the final game beyond what you will see here today. And what
this is just the biggest points of feedback,
final and
probably.
is, of course, always subject to change. Now, obviously, now we've covered that. Let's talk about our guests. Obviously having director Yuya Tokuda here is so much fun. And Patrick will be doing the Japanese to English, so you'll be hearing a lot of them both. So Tokuda-san, what would you like to say to everyone before we get stuck in?
はい、最初に徳田さんから自己紹介やコメントをお願いします。
はい、モンスターハンターワイルズディレクターの徳田優です。今日はこのような場を設けていただきありがとうございます。僕はモンスターハンター G から20年間、モンスターハンターを作り続けております。今日はよろしくお願いします。
5 minutes ago.
Hello everyone, I'm Yuya Tokuda, the director of Monster Hunter Wilds. It's really nice to be here with you guys today.
Good morning,
it's a good opportunity to speak to you directly. I've been working on the Monster Hunter series for 20 years now, ever since Monster Hunter G times. So yeah, good to get a chance to talk to you and let's have fun.
100 G times.
Yeah, but the open beta test was honestly, it was the response was overwhelming. We saw just a huge variety of responses and feedback, and just people enjoying it, and also sharing, what they thought of it in a constructive way. So, Takuda-san, could you talk a little bit about what your initial impressions were, seeing all the different reactions to the beta?
オープンベータテストの、ユーザーの反応への徳田さんの反応について教えてもらえますでしょうか。
はい、まず本当にたくさんの方にご参加いただき、ありがとうございました。クロスプレイのマッチングサーバーにもし問題があった場合に、修正期間を取るために、モンスターハンターワールドのオープンベータテストよりも1ヶ月早く、開催したんですけれども、おかげさまで大きなサーバートラブルもなくテストを終えることができました。
Yeah, thank you very much, first of all, to all the many players around the world who took part in the beta. It was a very useful experience for us. You may have realized that the timeline was even earlier on this beta than the one we had from Monster Hunter World back in the day.
It was
about a month earlier before launch. The reason we had this one earlier was because of the addition of crossplay to Monster Hunter Wild.
That's what I'm saying.
That new system meant that we really wanted to make sure we had enough time to fix any issues that might have arisen with crossplay and matchmaking on the servers. But fortunately, we were able to get through the open beta test without any significant hitches in that area.
Yeah, the networking was perfect, man. It was kind of crazy.
また皆さんの、楽しかっただったりだとか、もっとこうだったらよかったなみたいな、声を糧にしてですね、チーム全体がモチベーションを上げて、制作や改善に取り組むことができました。
Of course, it wasn't just about technical confirmation. It was also great to just see everyone's feedback, hearing all the players say how fun it was to play the game.
It was very fun.
And of course, your wishes and requests for things that you weren't enjoying quite as much about it. It was all such valuable feedback, and it's been great motivation for us to just finish the full game and make it even better. So thank you again for that.
We've got an hour of this, fool, so...
Yeah, it really was a fantastic opportunity for everyone, and for us to get some great learnings and observations too. And obviously, we've mentioned the open beta and what you thought about that. What were your thoughts, Takuda-san, on the recently published previews and interviews we'd seen from press from around the globe?
Call out the gamers, say they're dumb.
メディアのプレビューも公開されていると思うんですけど、徳田さんは確認されてますか？いかがでしたでしょうか？
はい、まず世界中からですね、初心者からベテランさんまで、すごく幅広い層の、ライターさんが、大阪に来てくださって、OBT からの改善点はもちろんですけど、ゲーム作品としてそもそもどうなのかだったりだとか、部分についてですね、とても楽しんで、ポジティブなレビューをたくさんくださったので、まずとても嬉しかったです。
Yeah, that was a really great experience. We had journalists from all over the world come and join us in Osaka, and it was a real range of people in terms of Monster Hunter play experience. Some of them were veteran hunters like yourselves, some of them were more on the beginner side, and getting to see their positive preview impressions was really exciting for me, because not just in terms of getting the news out there about improvements that have been made since the open beta test in the version they played, but their take on the game as a whole. That was something that was really fun for me to see, especially because it was very positive.
もうこれだけできてるんだったらもう大阪から帰りたくないみたいなことを言うメディアの方もいらっしゃいました。興味ある方はぜひ記事とか動画とかもチェックしてみてください。
Some of them were having so much fun, and they said the game felt so finished already. They just didn't want to leave Osaka. They wanted to stay there and keep playing it for a long time. But unfortunately,
Capcom, you can kidnap
we had to release them from the office. But yeah, if anyone hasn't checked out those preview impressions already, I'd encourage you to take a look, because they were really great to see.
はい、ではそれではここからはジョーとジョノから、説明があった通り、製品版で調整される内容と、OBT から変更される内容について、ユーザーの皆様にお知らせしたいと思います。
So yeah, as you guys, Joe and Jono, both mentioned earlier, today is a chance for me to talk directly to the community about some adjustments that me and the team are making to the game based on all the valuable feedback we got from you players about the open beta test.
Have to move all the keyboards
away.
Well,
let's go ahead and get into it. I think we have a lot to cover today. So let's start with our first topic. Our first topic is performance. So during the open beta test, which was actually running on an earlier version of the game, that's different from the internal version that the team is working on. We actually mentioned that the final release will have improved performance over the open beta test. So Takuda-san, could you walk us through how the team is improving performance with the full version?
はい、最初に製品版で目標にしているパフォーマンスについて教えてもらえると思いますのでお願いします。
はい、まず実物を見ていただくのが一番分かりやすいと思いますので、まだ最終バージョンではないんですけれども、プレイステーション5でフレームレート優先モードでのプレイ映像をお持ちしたので、ご覧ください。
Yeah, we've got some slides with some details coming up, but I think first of all, I really want you guys to just get your eyes on a gameplay video to understand where the performance is at. So I've prepared a video that's running on PlayStation 5 in prioritized performance mode.
Performance
it's not
mode.
the final version of the game, but it's a more up-to-date version than the one you would have played in the OBT. So let's take a look at that now.
This is good because the previews were all in graphics mode. This is No, wait. But I was reading that. It definitely looks a lot better. It's still a little blurry.
はい、このように、OBT の時よりも、綺麗なグラフィックで、60フレーム近くでプレイできる状態になっています。
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, hopefully that gave you an impression of how much better the game is looking already since the OBT. It's running at almost the target of 60 frames per second, so it's looking great, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if they're getting it with a consistent 60 FPS.
PS5 の解像度優先モードでは、4K 30fps で安定してプレイできることをターゲットにしています。
So as per the slide we have here, just to talk you through the target numbers that we have. On the PlayStation 5 in the prioritized graphics mode, we're running a rendered output of 4K with a targeted frame rate of 30 frames a second.
フレームレート優先モードではレータリング解像度は異なりますが、60fps で、遊べるようにターゲットしています。
And for prioritized frame rate, that brings the rendering resolution down as you can see, but then the target frame rate gets to 60 frames a second.
OBT では目標のフレームレートに出ていなかった上にですね、フレームレート優先モードでは描画の不具合がありまして、髪の毛とか、羽毛のような表示の時に、ジャギーのようなものが発生するようになってまして、ちょっと綺麗じゃない状態になっておりました。先ほどご覧いただきましたように製品版の方ではフレームレート含めて改善していますので、ご安心ください。
So the target frame rate that we have here was not being achieved in the OBT build. To be honest, it was an earlier version that wasn't quite as optimized. And there were also some rendering issues with the graphics when using frame priority mode, the prioritized frame rate. A lot of players reported seeing jagged edges on elements such as hair and feathers, the more fine details. As you will have hopefully got an impression of in the video we just showed, this has been greatly improved in the full version, and the frame rate is also hitting close to that target of 60 frames a second.
Yay!
はい、あとプレイステーション5 Pro エンハンスド対応については、製品版発売時の Day1 パッチにて、対応を予定しています。プレイステーション5 Pro でのゲームプレイは、グラフィック表現がより強化、を予定しておりまして、詳細については今後の情報をお待ちください。
Also, just one thing to confirm is that PlayStation 5 Pro enhanced support is incoming, and it'll be ready with the Day 1 patch on release day of the title next year. That's going to enhance the graphics for PlayStation 5 Pro
PlayStation
users.
5 Pro.
Please stay tuned for more details on that as we get closer to launch.
Day 1.
はい、Xbox シリーズ X と、シリーズ S につきましても、PlayStation 5版と同様な、パフォーマンス向上に取り組んでいます。
Moving on then to Xbox, you can see here that on the Xbox Series X and Series S, we're aiming at similar improvements over the OBT compared to what I just described for the PlayStation 5 as per the slide.
新版でもご利用の環境設定によって変動はありますけれども、パフォーマンスの向上について、同様に取り組んでおりまして、OBT と同じスペックの機材であっても着実にフレームレートなど、向上しています。
Steam is of course a bit more complicated. It varies greatly depending on your own personal rig, your hardware, and the settings you have set up. But we are working on improving the performance of that too. And the frame rate and other performance you can expect from the same equipment you might have used in the OBT will be improved for the full version of the game. So please wait a little longer.
Yeah, they can't really tell me specifically for my computer what the
これは本当におとつい聞いた最新の情報なんですけれども。推奨スペックとしてご案内しているグラフィックボードについてももう少し下げられる、可能性が、出てきております。正確な情報が、固まり次第公式サイトなどで、アナウンスさせていただきます。
this is actually something that I've literally just confirmed with the team yesterday or the day before, so it's very hot off the press news, but we're looking at hopefully lowering the level of the minimum recommended graphics board specs to allow more players with that level of hardware to play the game. The final details are still being worked on, so I can't share more today, but again, stay tuned to our official channels on our website.
Good.
And we'll hopefully get more details about that out soon.
That is really, really cool. You know, I mean, Joe and I can both attest that following the OBT, performance was an important topic for the community across all platforms. So it's really, really cool to be able to share the performance and vision improvements for all versions and platforms of the game across the board. So thank you for that, Guda-san. One little question though, because we did see some members of the community, particularly on PC, concerned whether or not they had a powerful enough hardware or rig to run the game on PC. Especially seeing, you know, out there's such a wide range of hardware amongst the gaming community. So is there anything the team are thinking of or looking at doing to help players on PC determine if their rig will run on Suntowa?
Oh.
Team user はそれぞれのプレイヤーが様々な環境で遊んでいると思いますけれども、発売前に自分の環境でできるパフォーマンスを確認したいユーザーがたくさんいると思うんですけど、何かしら対策を考えたりしますでしょうか？
はい、さまざまな改善とか最適化が進んでいる中でですね、その製品版の環境でご自身の機材がどのように機能するかというのは、発売前に知りたいというのは、非常によく、分かっております。現在そうした方に向けてベンチマークとご用意できないか、検討しています。できるできないや時期など決定しましたらまたお知らせいたします。
Yeah, I totally understand the PC players on Steam really want to know before launch if their rig is going to be giving them the performance that they want. While we are, as I said, you know, working to improve the performance greatly before launch, we're considering as well releasing a benchmark tool for Steam players, and that'll let you more directly check how your PC hardware is going to run the game. So that's something that's still in the works at the minute, and if that becomes finalized, again, we'll release further details on that in due course. So
they are thinking of doing
so we'll
a benchmark
await
tool.
Any further details on a potential benchmark tool, and overall those were some really great updates on performance. But let's go ahead and transition to some of the gameplay specific adjustments to either weapon actions and the overall hunting experience. And I think both Jono and I know that one of the biggest topics and concerns from the community were changes to hit stop and the overall impact of weapons.
Stop,
and
baby. We've already heard some changes
quite a
here.
Bit of feedback on looking for a little bit more punch to the different weapons.
We should see some gameplay
in our recent round of previews, we actually did confirm that there were some improvements made to this area. So Takuda-san, can you detail what these tweaks are?
Hit stop time,
パフォーマンスに続けて武器の調整についてですけれども、多くのユーザーから、もう少しパンチが欲しい、手応えを感じたいっていうフィードバックが寄せられていると思うんですけど、これに対してチームの方で予定している調整などについて教えてもらえますでしょうか？
はい、オープンベータテストでは、いわゆるヒットストップや、サウンドエフェクトが過去作に比べて弱いというご意見いただいております。これらについて OBT では一部対応が漏れていたものもあったんですけど、製品版では、多くの武器シリーズ、特に大技とか決め技を中心に、攻撃の手応えをより感じていただけるような調整をしております。
Yeah, this is, you know, what people refer to as hit stop. It's something that we were aware of with the OBT build. There were certain things we'd already taken care of, actually, and certain things that hadn't yet been done. So when it comes to making those weapons feel more weighty and impactful in terms of hit stop and sound effects, we are planning to make further adjustments in the full version of the game in that area.
一つの例として、調整後の体験の新ため切りの動画をお持ちしましたのでご覧ください。
I've got a video here that we can show in a second, which shows you the true charged slash of the greatsword.
Okay.
And that's how it looks after these adjustments have been made to make these big moves and finishers feel more meaty. So let's show the video, please, and see how that looks.
Show me the money, baby. Frickin' chonky. Chonky. Thank you.
はい、体験、実は新ため切りダメージ量の方も、増やしてます。ダメージ量に限らずですけど、ヒットエフェクトだったりだとか、ヒットストップについてももろもろ調整を行っていますし、サウンドですね、音についても調整してますので、トータルでヒット感は、向上しています。
So that move that we just saw, the true charge slash, has also actually had its damage output increased, but even for moves where I haven't changed the damage output, I've heard you guys on things like hit stop, on sound effects, how the moves feel to actually use. So those kind of adjustments are being made, not just on the greatsword. I use it as an example here because it's kind of easy to understand, but across the board on all weapon types.
Yeah, people don't like the second part. The feedback is that we want to still be able to
海外のユー
upswing.
ザーを中心に、ヒットストップが強すぎるとか、重すぎるみたいなご意見をすごくいただいたんですけれども、今回モンスターハンターワイルズのオープンベータですと逆に弱いというご意見もたくさんいただきまして、モンスターハンターの持ち味であるこの、重みのあるアクションという感覚が世界中の方に受け入れられ始めているんだなということも感じまして、感慨深くもありました。
It was really interesting actually for me to receive this feedback on the beta. I'm thinking back to Monster Hunter World, which I also worked on, and back then there was a lot of player feedback, especially outside Japan, where players felt that the game was actually too weighty.
Who are you
the
people?
animations were too slow, and that's completely the opposite of what we heard this time, where people were saying the Wild's OPT, everything felt a bit too light and floaty and weaker. So I'm taking that as a positive, where I feel like in the years between Monster Hunter World coming out and Monster Hunter Wild's OBT, players around the world have gotten used to that meaty, weighty hit stop action that is kind of one of the hallmarks of Monster Hunter. So knowing that they've accepted that and they wanted it back based on the OBT is actually something that I think is really interesting, and also it's really nice for me to hear.
Yeah, it's like a huge part of the game.
That's really, really cool. You know, I'm looking forward to seeing those meaty chops and big bonks come February.
Leviticus,
and obviously, you know, we've spoken about how
yes.
Weapon interactions with monsters have been adjusted, but we're also looking at friendly fire and how that works, right? I understand that this was actually something as well that the team were looking into and considering before the open beta test went live.
I'm not calling the devs dummy, I'm calling Western gamers dummies who said they didn't like hit stop.
どのような調整を予定しているのでしょうか。
はい、ゲームズコーンや TGS の、私有ロムでは、ガランスの流撃砲などによって、仲間が吹っ飛ばされる、いわゆるフレンドリーファイヤーがありましたけれども、OBT のタイミングでは多くの武器でそれらを緩和しました。
You're gonna have to catch
yeah, this is something that, as you said, before even the OBT came out, we had our first playable globally at Gamescom earlier in the year. Then we had Tokyo Game Show. And the adjustments that we started to make for friendly fire were already present in those builds.
Is a dev.
So, for example, the wyvern fire of the gun lance is something that we'd already toned down the effect even before the OBT started.
OBT の時点でもハンマーの勝ち上げなど一部フレンドリーファイアが残ってしまったものもあったんですけど、それらも製品版の方では、修正予定となります。
That said, as a lot of players will have noticed in the OBT, there were some friendly fire things that we hadn't handled yet. So upswing attacks on the hammer in particular, I think were causing a lot of people to be thrown around the place, and that's something that we're looking to get into a better place and fix it up for the final game.
またサンブレイクの方で実装されました、ダメージリアクションを無効化するこの干渉銃、
This is the Western gamers hit stop situation again.
実装予定です。
Don't listen to them.
And just to mention as well, something that wouldn't have applied during the OBT, but the shockproof jewel, which you might remember from recently Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, is going to be in the full game, and that will further help you nullify those damage reactions.
But then just add shockproof.
調整後のハンマーの勝ち上げの動画も持ってきましたので、ご覧ください。
I think that's best case
scenario. I've got another
scenario.
video with me today, so if we can please show that, then you should get an idea of how the hammer upswing looks after these adjustments have been made. So let's take a look.
Okay, I'm watching. No! No, take it back!
Yeah, the example is really great at kind of showing
I don't agree
side
with
by
it.
side the changes that have been made there. So, I think, with friendly fire, this is one of those changes where, there's a lot of different players a lot of different types of players that it may impact. So, Takuda-san, can you talk a little bit more about the intention behind making this change?
フレンドリーファイアですと、プレイヤーの意見も分かれる仕様だと思うんですけど、徳田さんの今回変更を入
We
れた
want
意図
to
について
fly.
もう少し
Like that's the more fun
詳し
part
く教えても
of
らえますで
friendly
しょうか。
fire. You know,
はい、
being
フレン
sent
ドリーファイ
flying.
アの軽減は残念なに思っている方もいるトピックだと、こちらも認識しています。今回ですね、ガンランスの流撃砲の範囲を結構思い切って広げたんですけど、この範囲で、ぶっ飛ばしを残してしまうと、マルチプレイですごく大きな、支障になってしまいます。
Yeah, I know what you mean because friendly fire is one of those features I think some players enjoy, the bit of the chaos, and they might find it disappointing to hear that it's being reduced, but it's all part of my overall balancing sort of approach. So to take the Gunlance Wyvern Fire as an example,
Oh,
the
that's
range
fine.
of that attack has actually been greatly expanded with Monster Hunter Wilds.
Like
and
that's fine.
that meant that just the sheer range at which friendly fire could occur was
I think people
kind of
just want the
becoming
upswing
something of a
stuff,
hindrance to
you know.
having an effective multiplayer hunt.
こういう行動はルールを理解しているプレイヤー同士なら楽しく感じていた
Or
だける要
literally
素に
just
もな
add
り得るんですけれども、
shockproof,
ク
and
ロス
then
プレイ
if
だっ
people
た
are
り、
annoyed
球
by
団
it,
集合によって、
just put on
幅広い
shockproof.
ユーザーの方がマルチ
And
プ
then you
レイ
have
す
the
る機会というのが
choice,
すごく増えている中で、初心者のユーザーの方がルールがわからないままぶっ飛ばしてしまったりだとか、特にそういう要素があることによってマルチプレイを避けてしまうようなことを、避けたいと考えて、今回、こうした実装をしております。
I think that kind of scrappy, chaotic feel that you get from friendly fire is something that players who understand it and they know how to avoid it or when it's going to happen, those people can have an understanding with each other and enjoy that. But we've now got crossplay and we've got a wider range than ever of experience levels of hunters joining the game. And I wanted to avoid a scenario where this level of, extra range attacks causing friendly fire would mean that maybe less experienced players would end up knocking everyone around beyond the point where it's still fun, or they might get knocked around and not understand why it's happening and not find that enjoyable, and then they'd end up avoiding going online and playing multiplayer with other players. So it's really part of my intention to make sure that everyone can enjoy multiplayer together, and that meant making the decision on how to adjust friendly fire.
Okay, we're gonna pause for a second because it is a premiere of a video, so it is kind of live, but like not really. But we can pause. The thing with okay, so I'm not gonna be like super bent out of shape if this is the case, right? Like, okay, fine. But the thing that gets a bit concerning is if they end up changing more and more and more and more and more things because there's new people and they're confused and they don't know things yet. So they just keep like, there's already less prep than there used to be with going on a hunt and stuff like that. So if they keep being like, well, there's new players to the franchise and we need to make it as like less friction-y as possible, I think you end up eroding some of the special little things about Monster Hunter, because this, you might not think this is the hugest deal, but it is a part of the identity of Monster Hunter, especially like the first time that your friend sends you flying with a hammer. It's funny. And of course, there's going to be players that are upset by it. But I think the general mindset that all of us have had is like, oh my God, I just got sent flying by that hammer player. Not, oh my God, how dare you send me flying. So I understand that like getting hit in the back by a light bowgun that's just like annoying. I get it. So maybe get rid of that. You get rid of longsword users like slapping you around. But even then, that's like, that's a part of the, oh, there's a longsword player. Oh God, be careful. He's not going to care about smacking you around. It's all a part of it. So I understand like you get rid of that stuff, but I really, really think you should keep the moves that upswing players into the air, that put them in the air. I think you should keep that, or keep everything and give people the shockproof jewel. You can even have a pop-up that says, You're going into multiplayer, consider Shockproof Jewel. Shockproof Jewel, if you don't know, it's not just flinch free. If you have this on, you just need one level of it, and it makes people not able to interrupt you and you not able to interrupt people. It goes both ways. I just think that we need to be really careful about eroding all these just little parts of Monster Hunter's identity, because eventually you can end up being with having a game that is very not like Monster Hunter. You know, that's the thing. I'm just like, go be careful. Next, we're going to be like, oh, well, players don't like hot and cold drinks, so we're getting rid of it. Oh, players, we're going to remove the ability to craft healing, and we're just going to give you like a flask or something that you always have. I just don't want it to go crazy. That's all. I just don't want them to go crazy. I understand where Tokuda-san is coming from, because he's saying, like, we have a bunch of new people coming to the game. There's cross-play. There are a ton of people are playing online. I want people to enjoy playing online. I don't want them to go into multiplayer and go, well, this is fudging annoying, and then never play multiplayer ever again. So that makes a lot of sense. And I do get it. But just want them to be careful. But I mean, the Monster Hunter community will push back on a lot of stuff and give a lot of feedback, and Capcom does listen to that feedback. So maybe I think best case scenario is keeping the upswing hammer attack. There's a bunch of other attacks that send people flying. Keep them in the game, but then add shockproof and put a pop-up that tells people what shockproof does, like the first time they do multiplayer. Exactly, like, quality of life is great, but friction in games is also a part of that game. So you do have to be careful about getting rid of all of it. It's like, yeah, it's a super smooth experience. I can just go out there and hunt. I don't have to track. And that's another thing, is that in Wilds, you don't really have to track the monsters, you know? Like, compared to World, it's like night and day difference. You have to find the monster the first time, and then you don't have to track them ever again. And even from what I've seen in gameplay, watching gameplay and playing the beta, you don't even have to track the monster for them to show up on your map. You can, like, select the question mark monster and go there. So that's another thing where it's like, that's another thing that people maybe find annoying. But it's a part of Monster Hunter, of preparing for the fight. It's not just like a monster battle simulator. It's a hunting experience. Tracking, preparing, all of that stuff is a big part of it. Anyway, let's continue.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's making it more approachable for new players and less frustrating for experienced players who are playing alongside these new players joining the community. And kind of moving on from that as well, something that actually Joe and I encountered ourselves, and what we saw within the community and content creators, was that during the open beta test, they felt that monsters move locations way more often than they expected.
That was a bug.
Was this intentional?
It was a bug.
ジョノとジョーもご自身で遊んだ時に気づいた仕様なんですけれども、モンスターが割と頻繁にエリア移動する仕様になってたと思うんですけど、コミュニティのフィードバックもたくさんある仕様だったと思いますので、こちらについてはどれだけ意図的なものだったでしょうか。
はい、OBT ではですね、そのプログラム的な不具合とですね、調整不足の両方が重なりまして、モンスターのエリア移動が、頻繁に発生していました。
Yeah, the actual truth is that there was a bit of a bug or glitch in the open beta test build, which meant that monsters were moving between areas more frequently than we intended. So the behavior you guys noticed in the open beta test build isn't something that was finally fully adjusted to where we wanted it to be.
They're gonna move less.
モンスターハンターワールドに近いような移動頻度になるように調整を入れています。
So yeah, we've worked on that since the open beta test build was created, and the final version should be more close in feeling to Monster Hunter World in terms of how often you feel the monsters are moving around.
People were killing monsters in about
so even though
2 to 3
the
zones
amount of frequency
is
that
what they were saying.
a monster might move locations has been toned down a little bit. Sometimes a monster moving locations significantly is kind of like a way of expressing its personality. So are there still some situations where a monster might move significantly?
これでも製品版では
Yeah, when they're
エ
like
リア
little,
間
when
の
they're
移
little
動をす
babies,
る場合がある
they
と
move
理
more.
解していいんですね。
もちろんモンスターがフィールドの中でどんどんこう移動していって、それを追い詰めていってハンティングするというのはモンスターハンターの、醍醐味の一つでもありますので、モンスターは移動していきます。
Yeah, that's right. It's one of the sort of key features of Monster Hunter is that you're chasing these monsters around these vast environments. So it's not like they're never going to move anywhere and you're just going to be stuck in one place to hunt them. You're still going to have that feeling of the chase where they move between different parts of the field as the hunt progresses.
またですね、特に生態系の上位に属するようなモンスター、
They're still gonna
強いモンスターはですね、ベースキャンプから離れた場所、フィールドの奥深くに巣を構えていることが多くあります。今回はフィールドが、広大になっているということもありまして、
This is really
いろん
cool,
な
by the
看護
way,
師が入れてるんですけれども、
Japanese
それで
players
も
and
変
English
身
players
移動
can
など
just
の
watch
際
the
に、
same
大き
video.
く移動するということがあります。
That's really nice.
Also, the maps are much bigger in this game than any previous Monster Hunter, and that means there's more turf to cover. And when it comes to things like the monsters who are at the top of the food chain in a particular map, their nests or their home turf within the map can be pretty deep into the area.
Yeah,
and
it's
can
pretty
be
deep.
some distance to cover. So if you get them to a weakened state and they're doing the thing where they limp back to their nest to try and recover, that's still going to be an occasion where you're going to have some ground to cover in order to chase them and
God, I
find them
hope
again.
so.
そうした場合はです
I didn't
ね、
even
その
think
借り
that
た
that
いモン
could
ス
be
ターの
different.
生息域だったり移
Don't
動ル
change
ート
that,
に合わせた場所に簡易キャンプを立てて、ファストトラベルなどを使って先回りするような、使い方というのもすごく有効になります。
I would recommend when that happens in the full game that you can actually use the pop-up camp feature to its fullest. So if you're aware of where a particular monster's nest is going to be in the map, and if it's quite a distance from other areas, you can go ahead and sort of
Make
do a
a
recce
pop-up
and
camp.
scout it out and put a pop-up camp there in advance, so that when that monster starts
Yes.
to get weakened and try to return to its nest, you can fast travel to the pop-up camp and
See,
get
that's
there
the kind of
quickly.
prep I'm talking about
So a
right
little bit
there.
of planning, a little bit of prep, and it will pay off in the hunt, which is always handy.
Go check out
And
anyway.
moving on, we've already covered a lot of juicy changes. We've been getting stuck straight in. So let's kind of move over to adjustments to something that's really important and helps really define a hunter's identity in game, and that we're all very passionate about: our weapons. So we know
Ooh,
many
this is
people
gonna
are
be
really interested
juicy.
in this.
This is going to be juicy.
In our recent previews, the team showed off
Do
some
we
changes
hear
to
about
the
the
insect glaive.
lance?
But that's not the only weapon. Multiple weapons have received adjustments, but a few in particular, like the aforementioned insect glaive, have received the most attention, right?
武器の調整についてですけれども、プレビューのインタビューなどで
Take notes on this
徳
one,
田さんは特に総中根などの武器がかなり OBT に比べて大きく調整が入っているというふうにコメントをいただいていると思うんですけど、こちらについてもう少し詳細に教えてもらえますでしょうか。
Write this one down, write down.
はい、特に総中根、ランス、スラッシュアックス、片手剣については製品版とかなり違いを感じられるような、武器種になっています。それらを中心に調整内容をご紹介できればと思います。
Yeah, the insect glaive is one of several weapons, such as the lance, the switch axe, and the sword and shield, which I think players will, if you play the OBT version and then you play the full game, you're going to notice maybe the biggest differences and feel like we've made the most adjustments to those weapons in particular, although we have made adjustments to all the weapons. So I'd like to take the chance to go through a few of those details with you.
Ooh, exciting.
はい、総中根についてはまずは動画を見ていただければと思います。
So if we can run the video
Here we
we
go.
prepared of the insect glaive, let's take a look at that first.
All right, insect glaive first. Yep, you can fly. You can fly. Oh, shit! They gave it an offset attack?
はい、このようにまず武闘跳躍が、追加されております。
That's right, vaulting dance is back.
総中根についてはゲーム図工や TGS の私有の段階で、特にこの総中根使いの方々から、アイデンティティとも言えるような、武闘跳躍を、 ないことについてですね、非常に残念
It
が
did
ある
not
声という
have
のを
an
たくさん
offset
いただいて
attack
ましたの
before
で、
at all. That was
OBT では間に合わなかったんですけど
that was part of
も、
the
製品
feedback.
版の方では、舞踏跳躍追
People were
加してお
like,
ります。
"Oh man, I can't do anything
So
on
this is something
Insect
I was actually aware of even before the
have
feedback from the
offsets.
open beta
I have
test
counters.
back at our Gamescom and Tokyo Game Show exhibitions of gameplay. We had our, insect glaive users, our bug rod mains complaining that the vaulting dance was missing, and it's one of the iconic moves of that particular weapon. So yeah, I'm happy to confirm that vaulting dance makes its return in the full version of Monster Hunter Wilds.
またですね、吸収切りの出始めのところに、相殺効果がついていたりだとか、エキスを取った時の、効果などが OBT から、追加で対応を行っていまして、これらによって、立ち回りの幅がすごく広がっています。
That's pretty freaking cool.
As you can see on the slide, we've got a few other adjustments being made. One of them is that the descending slash now has an offset effect added at the beginning
That was
of that move.
crazy.
And we also have additional effects happening with the different extracts that you have during the course of the action. So those are going to improve the feel of
Yeah,
the
that's
insect glaive too.
huge. Mitigating wind pressure,
はい、
tremors, and roars.
その吸収切りのための部分の、操作っていうのが、押しづらいというご意見も、すごく多くいただいておりました。
Kushala.
One thing I wanted to cover additionally was that some players said that the controls for charging up the descending thrust were a little bit too difficult, or they felt tricky to operate in the heat of the hunt.
僕自身も押しづらいなと感じる部分もありましたので、何かできないか検討や相談っていうのを進めていたんですけれども、慣れてくるとですね、この貯めることによる遊びの広がりっていうのも確かにあるなというふうにも感じていることから、あとそれを回収するコストとももろもろ天秤にかけていった結果、今回はその試操作に関しては残すことに、しました。
I took that feedback on board, and I tried it out in the game myself. And I did somewhat agree that it could be tricky to pull that off right in the middle of things, but we always have to weigh up when we're going to make these kind of modifications to a weapon, what the implications are for its playstyle as a whole. We have to balance the idea of changing that with, how it might play the way it is. So after many discussions with the team, I actually decided to keep this one the way it is. I think that it is one of the trickier things to pull off, but it's sort of a bit of a rewarding bit of depth to the gameplay of the Insect Glaive. If you can get used to that and learn when to use the charge, it can really deepen your play style. So that's something that we're not adjusting this time, although we did hear your voices on that.
Literally
メディアプレビューツアーに、来られた、操中根使いのライターの方はですね、触っていただいて、最高の操中根になってるじゃないかとすごく喜んで、くれましたので、ぜひ製品版の方、お待ちいただければと思います。
And yeah, there was actually one journalist who was in Osaka for our preview last month, and they're an Insect Glaive main user, and they said that this is the best Insect Glaive ever in Monster Hunter history. So you can take that
there
on
you
board
go.
And look forward to the full
Be
version
better
of
than
the
the journalists
you
you want to be.
Yeah, amazing. It's so great seeing Vaulting Dance
Jupiter,
back.
thank you for
I know that it's been
11
very, very
months.
highly
Welcome back.
requested from the community.
You don't need to apologize.
And I think there's a lot of people out there, including myself and members of the community, who doubted that it was something that could even be added back into the game. So it's so great to see it back and to see it in action. So moving on from the Insect Glaive, I know there's other weapons we want to touch on. We mentioned in the previews that the lance would be seeing some significant changes.
This
so
we know nothing about. This we know nothing. We knew about this, except the offset. We didn't know about that.
大幅に調整を入れる予定になっているというふうに徳田さんがコメントしてたと思うんですけど、そ
Same
の
with
詳
Switch
細に
X.
ついて教えてもらえますでしょうか。
はい。ランスは、多様なガードと、細やかな移動行動を駆使していって過去シリーズよりもモンスターに張り付いていける選択肢を増やしたかったんですけれども、そのモンスターの行動を見て待つ選択肢っていうのがなくなった結果、かえって行動の選択肢が狭まって、同じ行動を繰り返してしまうような、ちょっと単調なプレイにつながってしまう部分っていうのがありました。
Yeah, the lance was something where the effects of the adjustments we made were somewhat on the unintentional side. So I wanted to add a variety of different options for guarding and more fine footwork movement options. And the idea was to increase the tool set of things the players had available when they're using the lance. But I think that the unintentional effect of that was that players weren't able to do the classic lance move of being able to wait it out and see what the monster's going to do next and then respond to that in kind. And I think that we ultimately ended up, unfortunately, narrowing the options available, and some players even went so far as to say that the lance action felt monotonous because ultimately with the tools available, they still ended up repeating the same actions over and over again.
大きな変更点としましては、過去作のカウンタ
Time is
ー好
happening
き
all
を、
at the
ガー
same
ド中の
time.
ためカウ
So
ンター
you
と
are
して、
playing
復
it
活させました。
in the future.
So in response to that, one thing that I've done is take the counter thrust move, which was a move that was available in past games with the lance, and sort of resurrected that in a new form as what we're now calling the charge counter.
Charge
And
counter.
that's something that you can use while guarding as well.
Nice.
これによってカウンターで待つ、選択肢を作りつつ、さらに大きなモンスター
That
の攻
already
撃に対しては、ガードからパワーガードの方に派生していって、受けた攻撃によってため段階が変わる、新アクションっていうのも、足していってますので、そうしたものも含めた反撃の選択肢というのを取れるように、しています。
So the addition of this move, as well as the other adjustments that we've made, some of which you can see here, which includes a new move that can be chained into from both Perfect Guard and Power Guard, means that I think Lance players will appreciate the ability to read the monster's movements, and you can choose your counter-attack style, and you can even do a Power Guard that will now charge even more quickly or to higher levels if you successfully defend against more powerful monster attacks.
Nice.
So that sort of wait, read, and counter style of the lance, I think is going to be getting much better than you might have experienced in the open beta.
This is all fantastic. There's about to be an ad, so I'm just going to run it now while we pause for a little bit and talk about the lance. So it sounds like you're going to be able to guard, and then while you're guarding, like essentially cancel that guard into like the counter move, which sounds, I mean, I'd listen. I don't play Lance. So I may interpret things incorrectly because I'm like, oh yeah, sure, Lance, stabby guard. But it sounds like that's what they're saying. Sounds like that's what they are saying, which is wonderful. That sounds, because he was saying that in the beta, people weren't able to react to what monsters were doing. They had to they couldn't guard and then react to it. They couldn't see what the monster was about to do. So that sounds really great. Power Guard will now charge to higher levels more quickly when used to successfully defend against more powerful monster attacks. That's fantastic. They've added new moves. Perfect Guard and Power Guard can now be changed into a new move. So guarding on the lance has gotten better. We love to see it. We'll get there. No spoilers. Mr. Aries with 111 months. Holy crap. Thank you so much. Welcome back. Wowee. The insect glaive stuff is really good. Like, part of the insect glaive feedback was, not being able to be in the air all the time. But another part of the feedback was, all of these weapons have perfect guard, perfect dodge, or like offset attacks. But not Lance, insect glaive didn't have any of that. So they had their aerial dance taken away. And then they also didn't have any of the new, like, perfectly timed moves added to them. So adding an offset attack to insect glaive is great. Because I think that it does make sense that every player with every weapon should be able to enjoy those specifically timed things that the other weapons have. I think that makes sense. Are there any Lance players? Can you tell me how you feel? Please let me know what you're thinking about this stuff. I played Insect Glaive a good amount in the open beta test, and I did like the breaking wounds, getting your full buffs, and then breaking a wound midair again, expending the buffs. Yeah, that was a cool loop. Lance, I have no idea. I used it a couple times in World during arena quests against Diablos. And that was pretty much it. So I think we're good to keep going. Let's keep going.
その他混乱だったり暴発が起こりやすいような発生をなくしたりだとか、連携中に発生するガードダッシュのキャンセルのタイミングを早くするなど、過去作でできたことっていうのは、なるべくフォローしながらやれることの幅っていうのを広げる調整をしています。僕はもちろんランス界の藤岡さんも、結構、じっくり触っていまして、かなり感触良くなってきています。
There's also another variety of adjustments that we've made to the lance in conjunction with Mr. Fujioka, the executive director and art director, who, as you guys know, is a lance main, so he takes the lance very seriously. And I worked together with him on these, so I wanted to expand the range of what you can do based on past titles. That has included actually removing some moves that you tended to chain into only on accident, and it would kind of cause confusion and mess up your combos. So I've sort of refined the moveset a little bit in those ways, while at the same time speeding up the cancellation timing of guard dashes that are chained into during combos. So I think that these changes, if you trust me and Mr. Fujioka, are going to make the lads feel better than ever.
はい、動画の方もお持ちしたので、ご覧ください。
Sounds like it's going to feel
great. I've got a video for this too.
Video,
so if we can
let's
run
go.
That, then you can see what I'm talking about.
All right. Sexy. Ooh.
And there we have it. Lance getting straight to the point, as always.
That looks fantastic.
So hopefully our Lance mains out there, that has put a smile on your face. And for those of you that have never tried the weapon before, hopefully that's, sparked a bit of interest for you to go check it out come February. But now to move on from the Lance, let's talk about the Switch Axe, which
this was another one that's going to be
made
huge.
Much stronger than it was in the open beta test. Takura-san, can you tell us a bit more about that, please?
The devs, not the devs, journalists who went to Osaka were not allowed to use the Switch Axe because of how different it's going to be. So I'm excited for this one.
はい、スラッシュアックに関しては、そのオノモードでゲージを貯めて剣モードで放出していくような基本的なサイクル自体は、変えていませんが、オノモードでのちょっとためにくさみたいなものは、多少緩和しつつ、剣モードでの攻撃を、ゲージ消費に見合ったような威力とか手応えに調整を行っています。
Yeah, so with the Switch Axe, of course, the basic loop of charging up the axe mode and then releasing in the sword mode is the same. That's kind of what people expect from the weapon, but I understand from feedback that some players thought it was too difficult to get the axe mode charged up, and that was something that I wanted to alleviate, so that difficulty has been adjusted.
Okay.
At the same time, the sword mode has been adjusted to be this feeling more powerful and more responsive to match that gauge consumption.
特にフルリリーススラッシュは、手応えも威力も、最終発生型に見合った性能に、向上させています。
One move in particular that should be feeling a lot better now is the full release slash. It's been improved both in terms of its power output and its feeling, and it just feels like a much more appropriate finisher move in terms of how great it feels to pull off.
またカウンター切りの使い勝手を上げたりだとか、集中弱点攻撃の後スキを短くするなど、使いづらかったコードを少しずつ調整していって、全体的なそういう良さというのを向上させています。
There were also some moves that the feedback from the player base was that they were a little bit too difficult to use. So using the counter rising slash in sword mode is something that's been made more usable. And I've also looked to shorten the animation lock period after using a focus strike with this weapon. So hopefully those things make it feel
nice. Okay,
more
that's
usable.
gonna make it smoother.
はい、こちらも動画をご覧ください。
The play smoother.
I've got a video for this one too.
Video,
So
show
let's
me,
take a look.
baby. It's pretty freaking hot. Yeah, you can't be interrupted when you're doing that.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe by a roar, but not
are
a
looking really great.
knockback.
As somebody who really likes the new moveset in Monster Hunter Wilds, these tweaks just take it to the next level. So I'm really excited about that, and maybe I'll switch to the Switch Axe. Sorry. Well, next up, we've got Sword and Shield. Jono, I know
Sword
this
and
is very
Shield.
near and dear to your heart as your main.
I
Tokuda-san, can you
really
take us
liked
through
Sword and
all of
Shield
the tweaks
in
here?
the beta, so I'm
はい
curious what they're
次に
doing
ご
to
存知
it.
のように、ジョノがメインに使っている武器でもある片手剣ですけど、こちらの調整についてはいかがでしょうか。
はい、まずですね、過去作とちょっとボタンは違うんですけれども、ガード中に切り上げですね、のアクションを復活させました。
Yeah, so for the Sword and Shield, one thing we heard your voice very clearly on was that the loss of the ability to use Rising / while guarding was being majorly felt. So that's back, and now you can now perform that move while guarding again.
また通常攻撃だったり、ジャストラッシュといった、各種攻撃の威力を、上げていったりだとか、各種行動のレスポンスの方も、向上させて、さらにバックステップと滑り込み切りの回避性能を強化するなど、全体的なこの威力と、レスポンス手触りを向上を
These are a lot more
させて
changes
い
than I
ま
was
す。
expecting for Sword and
And
Shield.
there's also various improvements, as you can see on the next couple of points here, being made to the weapons sort of feel and also
Feel
attack
and responsiveness.
So normal attacks and the perfect rush have had their parameters improved. The responsiveness of your sort of more bread and butter mobile combos like the chop and side slash combo have been improved. Same goes for guard slash and perfect rush. And then finally the backstep and the sliding swipe have had their effectiveness
I don't like
when
it, Ariel.
it comes to evasion improved as well. So lots of changes all across the board for Sword and Shield.
こちらも動画をご覧ください。
Video, let's
you guessed it,
go.
another video for this weapon. So let's
I'm
run it and see
excited.
how it looks.
I played a lot of Sword and Shield in the beta. That already looks smoother. That's looking smooth. Smooth.
Oh my goodness.
Smooth.
To my fellow Sword and Shield enjoyers, we are truly eating good in Wilds. Those changes look delicious. What can I say? And for those that haven't tried Sword and Shield yet, here's a really good excuse to give it a go.
Look, it's smooth.
But enough of me gushing about the Sword and Shield, because I could do that for the next hour. You know, there are other weapons too that have had some adjustments. Maybe not as extensive as the four we've shown so far, but many have received tweaks. So, Tokuda-san, could you please take us through these at a broader level?
こちらの4つの武器ほど、大規模な変更ではないかもしれないんですけれども、全体的な武器の調整について教えてもらえますでしょうか。
はい、先ほどの4つの武器も含めてになるんですが、まずその属性値だったりとか、スキルの効果も踏まえたエンドコントロールを見越した数値調整というのを、全武器広く、行っています。その過程で、意図したバランスになっていないものだったりとか、意図しない武器格差みたいなものが、生まれていた部分については調整を予定しています。
I like that.
Yeah, as you said, all the weapons are receiving general wide-ranging adjustments to everything from their skills, their elemental values. I don't want it to be unintentional weapon tiering happening. I want to balance the weapon lineup so that everything has a valid place and everything is a viable choice, not just for playing the full game when it comes out, but going through to completing the game and then moving on to the end game content. I know that these balance adjustments need to stand up for many hours of gameplay from you guys, and that's the intention with this overall balancing approach.
What do they mean by the power of Tracer, though? Does it mean that...
各武器種が持つコンセプトとか触り心地が実現できているかっていうのを重要視した調整を行っていまして、強いものを下げるというよりはどちらかというと低いものを上げていきながら、武器種間の格差もできるだけなくしていくような、方向性で、調整しています。
And my general concept is that I want each weapon to feel true to its own unique concept, because each of them has a place in the lineup of 14 weapons.
Very important.
In order to do that, I don't want to lower the high values to make everything meet in the middle. I actually want to raise up the lower values to make the weapons that were feeling less powerful feel more viable and going toe-to-toe with the other weapons in the lineup.
There's nothing wrong with rebalancing,
So
shifting power between the different moves around. I think that's fine.
その、主だった例として弓を挙げますけれども、弓はシルベの矢と、 刺してそこに対してこう矢が飛んでいく、機
It's
能なんですけど、それと
power,
集中
yeah,
弱点
power
攻撃の方
adjustment
にダメージのソースが、
of
か
where
な
the
り
power is
偏ってい
going.
ていたんで
And
す
then
け
the
れども、
focus strike
その
is
分
like
も、通常攻撃
a nerf,
だったりだ
that's
とか
fine.
局射のようなものの威力を上げつつ、さらにそれらの行動のつながりだったりレスポンスとかを向上させて、その他の行動でもしっかり
Anyway, so after he's
ダ
done
メージ
talking
を取
about
れ
it,
るよ
I'll
うな
talk.
調整を行っています。
As on the slide here, the bow is a good example of this kind of general adjustment. I think that in the version that you guys will have played in the beta, the damage output was getting pretty biased towards using the tracer shots
Yes.
combined with the focus strike attacks. And this is something that I wanted to adjust. So again, as I said, rather than bringing those down, what I've done is bring up the normal shots and the arc shot power, make those attacks more viable, and at the same time, general responsiveness has been improved across the board for the bow, including transitions and chaining between different attacks. So
I like that.
makes it feel like a more cohesive,
That's nice.
true to the bow concept type weapon.
So now I
ま
can
た集中弱点攻撃で、
smoothly.
複数の傷だったりシルベの矢をまとめてロックオンして破壊することができたんですけども、傷については一つ一つロックオンする形に変更を行っています。
One more thing to mention is that as of the beta, the focus strike targeting capability was locking onto multiple wounds more or less simultaneously at the same time.
Yes, you could kill them all
and
immediately.
I've rebalanced this now so that whenever you try to lock on to multiple wounds, they'll lock on one at a time with a brief delay in between each one.
like
so
that.
That's another balance adjustment that's been made here.
I like that because you can still do it. You can still lock on to multiple wounds, but if you want to do that, you're going to need to have a significantly larger opening time-wise in order to do that against the monster. I was curious about what they meant about power of tracer shots, because the thing that makes tracer shots really nutty, besides like the extra damage, so when you put a tracer in a monster, it makes your shots do more damage, but it also makes you shoot at your max charge all the time. Doesn't matter if you're max charge or not. You can do max charge all the time. So I was wondering if they were going to make it to where it doesn't always shoot the max amount of arrows that it can. But I would guess that they've probably just toned down like the actual damage itself. So I'm good with that. I think ultimately the best way to play bow is still going to be the same, like having your power coatings on all the time, or close range coating, whatever coating you're using, and a tracer. It just means that you're going to use arc shot maybe more, because arc shots are not very powerful. The only time I used arc shot is when there was a wound and I could lock onto the arrows that was stuck in the monster as well as the wound. I didn't use it like any other time. So I think that's interesting. Well, so when you were targeting with Focus Strike, you would lock onto all of the wounds all at once as long as it was in the circle. Now, if there's multiple wounds, it's going to lock onto them one at a time, so you have to hold it for longer if you want to do
はい、
multiple
夢に
wounds.
ついても動画を用意しましたので、ご覧ください。
And you can see that and more in this video. Let's
All
run it.
right, let's see the video. Oh, God, I'm going to have to slow it down, aren't I? Oh, there's no damage. Oh, but there's arrows, though. Oh. There's no UI, so it's actually, hold on, I'm just gonna watch that one more time. It definitely looks a lot smoother. It does look a lot
You can see that
smoother.
and more in this video. Let's run it.
Yeah, that's way smoother. That's way smoother. Way, way, way smoother. Nice. Yeah, I like it. I like it.
このようにですね、単なる下方修正にならないように、武器の魅力だったりユーザーの選択肢の幅が広がるようにことを意識しながら、全ての武器の調整を行っています。
Yeah, hopefully when you watch that you get a sense of what I meant, which was I don't want to just bring the powerful aspects of weapons or the more powerful weapons down to the same level. I want to make adjustments to each weapon to
No,
make
I like it.
every single weapon feel like a viable choice in the lineup of weapons in Monster Hunter. And
I like it because you're having to if you can still kill multiple wounds at once, but you're gonna need a big old window to do it. And also there's a lot of times that I don't want to destroy all of the wounds at once because you can use it to like knock monsters out of the air, which is a little OP. But yeah, I think that's great. It gives it more skill expression. You have to time things better, which I think is great.
And the players have lots to choose from, and everything.
And it looked a lot smoother going
really
between the different moves of bow.
Behind all the balancing changes and the improvements. And I know one weapon that I think we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up, and a lot of people are really passionate about, is the hunting horn. Could you talk about some of the changes that the hunting horn is receiving?
What are they doing to the hunting horn?
狩猟笛は特に多くのユーザーからフィードバックがあった武器だと思うんですけど、こちらの最終的な仕様変更などはいかがでしょうか？
そうですね、狩猟笛の基本的な、メカニクスというか、そういうものについては、ユーザーさんも僕も含めて、結構気に入って、います。なんですけれども、サブ武器としての性能というのがちょっと、強すぎる面がありましたので、そのあたりは手を加えようと思っています。
Hunting horn is a weapon that I myself really enjoy playing, and I think we've heard from lots of players that they find it really fun. It's a very viable main weapon. So actually, the adjustments that I want to make for Monster Hunter Wilds based on the beta were about how it felt a bit too strong as a sub weapon.
OBT ではですね、攻撃力アップ小の戦慄効果までしかなかったので、そこまで問題にならなかったんですけれども、製品版の方では攻撃力アップ大の戦慄効果があったりだとか、あとそれらの効果の時間を長くするスキルなどもありましたので、サブ武器としてかなりちょっと強い面が、ありました。
It wasn't too bad in the OBT because being a limited slice of the gameplay, the melodies that were available for the hunting horn only actually went up to attack up S. But when you take that into the full game and you're going all the way up to attack up L, it just meant that the melody effects were too overpowered and it just became too much of an obvious meta choice to have the hunting horn as a backup weapon because of how powerful the parameters were whenever you were buffing not just yourself but your whole party.
Okay, what are they doing?
自分強化の戦慄効果のパラメーターというのを外でのアップも含めて底上げしつつ、他のプレイヤーへの戦慄効果のパラメーターだったりだとか、狩猟笛から他の武器種に変更したときにその効果時間延長のスキルの効果がなくなるなどの調整を行っていって、サポート武器としての価値は残しつつもバランスを整えるような形にしています。
So yeah, with a view to rebalancing that, what I've actually done is the melody effects when you strengthen yourself, when you buff yourself, have actually been increased, been made more powerful. But conversely, the effect on others has been decreased to rebalance its focus.
Oh, okay.
The other thing that has changed is that when you change back from the hunting horn to the other weapon that you have with you, that's the amount of time that the melody effect was being applied and for an extended amount of time. That skill has been adjusted so that
makes sense.
When you change back to your other weapon, it's not going to hang around for as long whenever you've got the buff applied to other players. So I think that those balances still make it a valuable choice as a support weapon, but it just makes it less OP, to use the community phrase.
Yeah. No, that's great. I think that change makes a lot of sense because you were going to have, of course, you were going to have like hunting horn, like mains that use hunting horn as their main weapon, but it absolutely was going to end up being a thing where everyone just had a pocket hunting horn and you wouldn't be making interesting decisions about what weapon to bring with you as your secondary. You would just have your main and then you would have a hunting horn. So making it to where it's still just as powerful for yourself, but it's not going to be as powerful for you just buffing yourself and then immediately switching to a different weapon. Do I mainly play this game solo? Me personally, yes. The game is great with friends. Yes. It was created to play with other
for the
people.
Ears of our dudes out there, you know, putting respect on the weapon for those that main it and are proud of the tunes they bring to the hunt. And kind of moving on from that a little bit and moving away from weapons. Well, actually, I say that we're moving further into weapons here. We've got some juicy details to go into. Earlier on in the stream, you mentioned to Guda-san in the final version that balance will be adjusted to take into the account the existence of skills that were not included in the open beta test. So that does mean that in Monster Hunter Wilds, the skill building system has changed a lot from what we know, right?
Are they going to tell us about the way skills work?
OBT に入ってなかったようなスキルの存在なども考慮して、製品版の全コンテンツを通してバランスを、検討されているとのことでしたが、確かにワイルズでスキルの仕組み自体は大きく変わっていると思うんですけど、そちらについてちょっと詳細に説明してもらえますでしょうか。
はい、OBT を受けた、調整内容とちょっと話が、変わりますけれども、インタビューなど以外ではちょっとこれまできちんと説明できていなかった部分でもありますので、ご紹介させていただきます。
Yeah, this is something that isn't strictly speaking a OBT feedback response, but it's something that I think I've mentioned a few times in interviews that have gone out with the previews, but I wanted to take the chance on today's stream just to kind of really make it clear exactly what the implications of this new system are. So let's take a look at an example with this screenshot.
I'm listening.
今まではその防具のパーツに装備のスキルが、ついていましたけれども、特定の武器種にしか効果がないようなタイプのスキルが入っていると、その防具に合う武器種を選ぶしかなくなってしまったりだとか、切り合わせがしにくくなってしまうみたいなことが、発生している部分がありました。
So on previous titles, the place where you put equipment skills has always been the armor rather than the weapon, right? So that meant if you needed to equip skills that were sort of specific to a certain weapon or category of weapons, there was sort of an inevitability about certain skills and certain armor gear being the kind of only viable choice whenever you were going to go out with that particular weapon equipped, and that kind of limited, I think, the players' freedom to choose what exactly it was they wanted to wear.
True.
今作ではメイン武器とサブ武器を切り替えられるように、なっていますので、これまでの仕組み、スキルの仕組みですと武器を切り替えた時に、せっかくのスキルビルドが無駄になってしまう場面が、出てきます。なので、今作では例えば攻撃とかガード性能のような、武器に紐づくようなスキルは武器側に、つく形にして、例えば早食いのような、補助的なスキルについては防具側につけるような形に、変更しております。
The other implication of the fact that in Monster Hunter Wilds you can bring a main weapon and a sub-weapon was that your carefully chosen skill build on your armor would be completely wasted and be for naught. Whenever you change weapon, suddenly all of those skills that you'd equipped on the armor might not be relevant depending on what the second weapon was.
Very true.
So the system now has changed so that skills that are mostly tied to weapon functions such as attack boost and guard are not attached to the weapons themselves directly. And then other more supplementary skills such as speed eating are still attached to armor. And by separating out where the skills go, it means that your skill build will actually make a lot more sense even as you change weapons throughout the hunt.
Yeah, so this is a pretty significant change to how players are going to be able to build
hoping
their
we get some
sets, and
details on
hopefully
it, because we do know
result
this
in, lots of variety in terms of the different weapons people use and different armor sets. But one question I had is, well, what happens when weapons are upgraded? Do these skills disappear, or what happens with them?
Okay.
このシステムになって、例えば武器を強化して派生で新しい武器にしたときに、自分その入ってたスキルがなくなったりすることはあるのでしょうか？
はい、ここちょっと分かりにくいところなのですごくいい質問なんですけども、同じ武器派生の強化でスキルが消えることということは、ありません。
Yeah, that's a great question and maybe a concern people might have had if it wasn't super clear how the system works. So it's a good chance to be very clear about it. Skills will never disappear from a weapon whenever you upgrade it within the same weapon tree.
今画面に映っているのが、ホープブレード2で、砥石高速化のスキルが、ついているかと思います。
So as you can see here on this screenshot, the Hope Blade 2 in the equipment info panel, you can see that it's got the speed sharpening equipment skill on it.
これを強化、したスライドに変えていただきますと、
When you upgrade that, it changes to a different weapon, and I think we have a second screenshot prepared, which we can switch to now.
ホープブレード3に強化した形になると、
Hope Blade
砥石高速化はのスキルがついたまま、見切りの スキルが新たに追加されています。
As you can see with this screenshot of the Hope Blade 3, the equipment skill speed sharpening has been retained, and we've got an additional skill called Critical Eye, which has been included with the upgraded weapon.
ですので、そのスキル自体はなくならずに、別のものがついたり強化されたりしていきながら、武器派生を、強化していくことができます。
So as you can see, the skills didn't reduce, and some can be added, and also the level of existing skills might be increased the more you upgrade the weapon within the tree.
また
Well, it actually kind of reminds me of potentially like Wild Hearts. Just in the way that, like, if you're starting here and it has speed sharpening, right, like it does, and you want speed sharpening, then you're going to go down the tree that has speed sharpening, but then also adds, like, obviously other skills that you want. So it kind of seems like, yeah, if a weapon has a skill that it starts with, you can then go down that tree and it will always maintain the skills that it had previously. Which is very interesting. Yes, also we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 critical eye. That's really interesting. I like that. I like that very, very, very much. So you can say, oh, the Chemitrese one has attack boost. So I want to go in the Chemitrese tree because it has attack boost on it. That's very interesting. Okay, tell me more, show me more.
派生の武器になるほどですね、武器の方にもスロットが空いていて、そこにこう装飾品を入れる。
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering is that like, yeah, it's how many weapons. So for example, if one tree is the only tree that has certain skill on it or a certain skill combination, then you're going to be really dialing into which one you want to go down because of the skills that it has.
ことによって、自分好みのスキルビルドを楽しむことも、可能になります。
Also, in addition to these built-in equipment skills that are baked into each level of the weapon, there are, of course, decoration slots. So the further you go down the weapon tree, the more decoration slots will open up on the weapon at the higher levels, and that's going to let you create your own skill build to your own liking and combine the pre-built ones with the ones you add later using decorations.
I think that is really, really exciting. I mean,
I think it's exciting.
Having the skill set this way means that, you know, as we mentioned earlier, that there's going to be far less instances of there being a particular weapon that is the best for, you know, multiple situations. And when you're building your sets, you know, your weapon will directly contribute to that. And also, you know, you can switch between your weapons without it, you know, neutering your armor set that you've kind of been meticulously building. So I'm really, really excited to see, one, what the community discover, and two, like how they use it. And, you know, I can't wait to see what the different sword and shields have as well. So that's really, really cool. And now, you know, let's move on a bit. Let's have a little chat about a few other things that we've seen in the beta and things like that. And there's one thing that kind of really stood out to Joe and I, and for anyone in the community who frequents the different Monster Hunter subreddits that are out there. And one of them was the most beautiful collage. It was a collage of many hunters using shielded weapons, pulling the biggest frowns as they guarded against the wrath of monsters, kind of like a...
The face was amazing.
Face. Now, you know, what's the situation with that? What's going on there, Takuda-san?
Keep it, goddamn, please.
最後の質問タイムに入らせていただきます。多くのプレイヤーが気づいた仕様としては、肩を構えたときに、ハンターが若干変顔になり気味だったんですけど、こちらは意図的な仕様なのか、修正されるものなのか教えてください。
はい、変顔にしたかったわけじゃなくて、武器を構えた時にその気張ったような顔に、したかったんですけど、まさかちょっとあそこまで気張った顔になってるとはちょっと想定外なところがありましたので、直します。
Yeah, thank you for your very demonstrative version of the face. My intention was to show that when someone grabs tight onto a shield to guard an attack, that they would sort of be, you know, grimacing or have an intensity to the expression, but the way it turned out wasn't really what I wanted it to be. So we're going to change that in the final game and have it look a little bit less weird and a little bit more cool and intense.
Well, I'm a little bit sad that it's being changed because it was extremely funny.
It was
totally
great.
Understand that, you know, we want our hunters to be immersed in the world, and that's one of those things that might take you right out of it. So
No,
I want
it's
to switch
amazing.
gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about multiplayer. We did
Let us
hear
pick
some
it.
feedback
Pick a
from
face.
players that they were a little bit confused on the different ways to get into multiplayer and just just weren't quite sure how to play with their friends easily.
I would
So,
love
Tokuda-san, can you
Polygon
touch just a
merch?
little bit on multiplayer
nice.
and matching up with friends and how that's going to work in the full game?
変顔がなくなるこ
Is
と
this
自体は
changing from the
個
beta?
人的には少し寂しい思いもあるんですけど、確かにかっこいい顔にしてもあるんだったら製品版を楽しみにしますということです。次の質問になりますが、オー
thought it
プ
was
ンベ
pretty
ータ
easy.
で多くのプレイヤーからちょっとマルチプレイの仕様について、どういうふうにやればいいかわからない、つながり方わからない。この仕様についてどう使ったらいいかちょっと使いづらく感じた人もいたと思うんですけど、この辺について、製品版の仕様や、使い方のアドバイスを込みでアドバイスをお願いします。
はい、まず製品版では、ロビーの ID を教え合った人しか入れない、プライベートロビーという機能だったりとか、特定のサークルの人たちだけが集まれるサークルロビーのような、友達と会いやすい機能っていうのが追加されます。
So firstly, in the full game, there will be multiplayer features that weren't included in the open
Like the
beta
private
test,
lobby.
which I think will make it easier to get together with just the people you want to play with. So one of those will be private lobbies, which, as the name implies, they'll have a lobby ID, and only those people who you've shared the ID with can join in. We'll also see the return of the squad system, and squad lobbies will be available only to your squad members, and that's going to make it so that you can, have your friends get together really easily.
あとですね、OBT ではリンクパーティーや環境リンクといった機能が、入っていたんですけども、これらは複数のフィールドが、ある状態で、各メンバーの環境が変化していく中で、有効に機能するようなものなので、一つのフィールドで変化の幅が少ない OBT だとちょっと分かりにくい機能に、なっていました。製品版の方では、リリース後にしかるべきタイミングで、情報を発信していく予定になります。
The link party environment link was a bit
on the flip side of that,
confusing.
there were features that were in the OBT that I think maybe didn't really, players didn't have a chance to really fully understand them, given the fact that the OBT was such a limited slice of the game. What I'm talking about is the link parties and also in particular the environmental link feature.
Yes.
These are designed for the full game where across multiple different maps, each of which has varying weather conditions across different phases. If you imagine getting online, you and Jono and Joe want to play together with me, and we're all in different areas and we're not synchronized at all, so choosing which monster to hunt or whatever else might be difficult. The environmental link means we can kind of settle on a state for the game to be in and have that synchronized and make our gameplay go a lot smoother.
Does make sense.
With the OBT, you only had the windward plains and a limited amount of changeable extreme weather conditions, and I think a lot of players were a bit sort of having a question mark about what the functionality of these features were, but trust me, it'll make a lot more sense when the full game comes out, and we'll provide more details on how to use those effectively when the time comes.
No, I appreciate the details.
There was a thing with environmental link and link party was always like a little it was a little weird because you had to end the environmental link, and then a lot of people thought that if you ended the environmental link it would disband the link party, but it doesn't. So if they could just be more clear about that in their wording of like ending the environmental link doesn't break up your party, because you have the environmental link and the state of the world, like they said, will be the same, but you wouldn't be able to post quests from like Alma if you were in an environmental link. You had to end the environmental link but keep the link party. So I think even if they just added like a pop-up of ending environmental link, you will remain in link party, something like that, I think that would probably be pretty helpful.
I mean, it's really cool to hear that, you'll be able to have a lot more control over the multiplayer experience you want. So if you do want to play with just your pals, you can. If you want to play with your squad, or if you want to play with anyone in the world who's also playing, you can. So it's great to know that those options are going to be there for our community. And obviously,
I do really like link party,
about multiplayer. Monster Hunter Wilds takes
really
the multiplayer experience in Monster Hunter to a whole new level, the biggest it's ever been, with 100 player lobbies, and camps that can hold up to 16 hunters at a time, which is fantastic. The kind of interactions we're all going to be able to have and that we had in the OBT, obviously. But with that though, there comes a lot of chatter, a lot of stickers, and if someone's being a bit cheeky, they spam in stickers and excitement
the spam
and things
was
like
insane,
that.
dude.
So for those of us that might want a slightly more relaxed public multiplayer experience around chat and stickers, what's the situation there going forward?
マルチプレイの設定面といえばですけど、多くのプレイヤーから寄せてもらっているフィードバックとしては、これだけたくさんの人数のプレイヤーが同時につながっているロビーになってしまうと、どうしてもチャットの方でメッセージやステッカーがバババってちょっとスパムのように入ってきてしまって落ち着けないようなロビーになってしまっているというフィードバックが多かったんですけど、こちらについて何か対策を考えられたりしますでしょうか？
はい、まず製品版の方では、特定の人の、発言を、自分の画面でミュートに、指定することが、できます。
Oh yeah, firstly in the full game, if one particular person is blowing up in the lobby chat, you'll be able to mute them. So that's a very targeted feature. You'll be able to make
if
use of.
someone's spamming.
またですね、クエストだったり、リンクパーティーを組んだときには、チャットチャンネルが自動で切り替わって、ロビーメンバーのチャット通知がされなくなるなど、いくつか対策を、入れていっています。
Also, we're going to adjust how the chat channels work whenever you do something like start a quest or a link party. What's going to happen is that the chat will automatically switch over to just the participants of that quest or that party.
That's great.
And you'll stop being notified of the general lobby chatter.
Good.
I think that will improve the feeling of whenever you start something with just your friends or other players, that it limits the range of who you're going to hear stuff from.
That's great. Because it wasn't the whole lobby that was
spamming.
It was normally
in particular was something that I got a few messages about.
That was
and I watched a few streams during the open beta, and that was definitely something that people would have liked to adjust. So it's great to hear that's happening.
And then Joe's like,
something
hi.
that I was really pleasantly surprised by when booting up the open beta were all the options for the different HUD display to have it bigger, to adjust it whether you're sitting at a TV or you're sitting at a desk. But even with that, I think there are additional areas where that could be improved. So what are our plans in the full game to adjust the HUD even further?
HUD changes.
HUD の表示についてですけど、
I mean, I'm happy
OBT
with
段
that.
階でもすでにテレビ
Because I
向け
like
の大き
seeing
さやデスク
the
向けの大きさの
interactions. I like seeing the interactions from other players. There is you just don't want the spam, right? And it also chilled out as the beta went on. It kept going like, as it went on, people did chill out. Initially it was oh my god. So I think that'll be fine, being able to just individually mute people that are being problematic or being spammy or whatever, toxic. I think that's great. Because I don't mind seeing people, like I said, when everyone would not spam, but they would post sorry. You could tell when people were carding, and I found that actually kind of funny, and I was almost like involved with their hunts without being there, which was kind of cool. But I don't need to hear the one dude that's just spamming stickers the whole time. And then it obviously switching to just your party and what they're doing when you do join them is very good. Good stuff. I
設
like
定があ
it.
ったりしてかなり細かく入ってたと思うんです
I
けど、
like it.
さらに製品版に向けてHUDの表示のオプションを追加しようと思っているのでしょうか？
You literally couldn't get rid
そう
of
で
it
す
at
ね、
all. in the
まず
beta.
オプション以前にですね、そもそもの表示の部分で、武器の、固有の表示だったりだとか、一部の要素の大きさなど、見やすさに関わる調整っていうのは、入れていって、より見やすく、しています。
Well, firstly, even before we get into the idea of options you can change, I am looking at feedback on the size of the specific weapon unique UI elements that each weapon has. And we're going to review those and make sure that by the time the game comes out, that the relative sizes of all those elements is going to make sense for everyone.
Okay, that's good.
のアップデートで、オプションなどの拡充というのも、随時
I'm ready for a
検討しております。
As for additional UI options, we're considering if we can add any in future post-launch updates. So stay tuned on that.
Okay.
Nice. Watch this space.
Okay.
Now, thank you so much for answering all these questions
I
so
didn't need
far.
anything.
It's good to stand. And, we are getting near the end of the pre-launch community update stream. So I have one small question that you may have seen amongst the community and one that Joe and I see everywhere. And, let's just between us, we'll keep it between us. Is there going to be another open beta test before launch?
こちらからの最後の質問になるんですけど、
Or just like
毎日のように
there will be.
コミュニティマネージャーの方
Or
の
no.
DM やインボックスにも入ってる質問なので、どうしても聞かせてほしいんですが、ここだけの話、ぶっちゃけ OBT はまた次回遊べる機会があるのでしょうか？教えてください。
January 15th.
完全にこう領土さんとかが答えるような
Oh, he's not gonna even tell
だ
us.
と思うんですけども、特別にお答えすると、検討自体は、しています。ですがもし追加の OBT を実施するとしてもですね、基本的には前回の OBT を遊べなかった方だったりだとか、その追加の、項目テストが、主な目的となりますので、今日お話したような、内容っていうのは基本的に製品版とか Day1 パッチ向けの対応になっていますので、OBT には反映されない、形になります。ちょっとその点はご了承いただきたいです。
And that's the kind of question where I'm used to leaving up to Ryozo, who'd be here with us, and he could answer that kind of high-level decision. But since you've asked, I will address that. We are considering if we will bring back the open beta test, but I would need to make clear that that would purely be essentially another chance for players who missed it the first time around to get a chance to try the game again, and we might maybe be able to add a couple of additional options here or there for people to try out. It wouldn't be something where all the various detailed weapon adjustments we've discussed today would be included. Those are strictly being worked on the basis of including them in the full game,
I wouldn't want them to do
the
that
day one patch.
either, to be honest.
So again, it's something we haven't ruled out yet, is bringing back the open beta test, but please wait for the full game to come out in order to experience all the wonderful changes we've discussed today.
What about a demo?
Hopefully you can understand why we've had to separate those two considerations.
What about a demo?
Right,
Not a beta.
Yeah, we'll have to stay tuned for the future for any news. We have covered so much today. I think this has been quite a long stream already. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you'd like to discuss before we wrap things up?
今日は結構長時間にかけていろんな詳細について教えてもらえたのですごく良かったですが、逆に徳田さんの方からジョノたちからの質問でカバーできていないポイントがあればこの機会にどうぞ教えてください。
はい、この前のメディアプレビューツアーのインタビューでちょっと一つ、言い間違いをしたところがありますので訂正させていただきたいです。
Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually something, it's not so much new information, but I want to have the chance to clarify and maybe make up for a misstatement I might have made during some of the press interviews that we had about the game. So that's something I'd like to discuss now.
All right.
サポートハンターが傷を壊さないオプションがあるというふうに言ってしまったんですけど、そちらは電話には入らない形になります。
I think in at least one interview I said that there would be an option in the game where you could set it so that the support hunters who can join you via the SOS flare would not go and break wounds for you, that they'd leave that for you. And that's something that actually won't be in the game on day one.
Oh.
発売日の仕様としては、プレイヤーが傷をつけてからしばらくの間、壊さないんですけど、1分以上ある程度経つとですね、集中弱点攻撃を使用して傷を破壊することが、発生するようになります。
So the way it's going to work at launch is that if you inflict a wound, but you, for whatever reason, you're not really proactively breaking that wound with your own focus strike, and a certain amount of time passes, maybe a minute or more passes, and you still haven't gone for it, that's the point at which the support hunters will start to look to use a focus strike to break the wound for you.
That's fine.
サポートハンターの、キャラクターによって壊しやすいだったり壊しにくいだったり、あと乗りやすい乗りにくいだったり、先行弾を使ってくれやすいみたいな、行動特性というのはキャラクターによって異なります。
That's something that's sort of unique to each support hunter's personality, though. Each character has a slightly different approach and an AI working for them. So whether or not they're quicker on the draw with focus strikes or less so, it also applies to other features like how often they might try and mount a monster, whether they find mounting harder, whether they're busting out things like flash pods more often or less often. Those all kind of depend on the character themselves. So it's not something that's going to happen on a strict schedule, no matter what.
That's good because Luchika in Rise is nuts. She's an insane person. And I ended up in Rise wanting to use support hunters because she's insane. So having them do stuff based on their personality was something that I hoped to learn more about because it was funny. It was great. Like, I hope there's a support hunter that just flashes the monster nonstop or like throws bombs at him all the time. It's just crazy because it, yeah, I like that. I like that. So that's good.
どのサポートハンターに来てほしいかっていう指定は
Yeah, there'll be some support hunters that get fed up with you in like 30 seconds. Like, it's been 30 seconds. I'm taking this wound.
発売時はできないんですけど、タイプトルアップデートでは、検討しております。
So the option that I'm looking to add, perhaps in a title update after launch, is letting players specify which NPC support hunters can join them and which ones they don't want to join them. So that's how I intend to add the ability to control the frequency of that particular feature.
Jonathan, I'm not bringing that motherfucker. That boy's crazy. He's always mounting. He's destroying wounds. He's doing things I don't want him to do. That's great because, I mean, in Rise, you could do that. You could choose which support hunters you wanted to bring. So I like that.
あと細かいことですけど、Day 1パッチだとお供とかサポートハンターが、サインを、送ると自分のところに、来てくれるようになって、ちょっと便利になってます。
Relatedly, one additional feature I wanted to confirm was when you use the signal, this sort of ping that you activate through the menus, the palicos and the support hunters will come to your side during a hunt. So that's just a little quality of life feature that we've added.
Nice.
Oh,
Don't
that's
invite
really
Carl.
Cool. And yeah, thank you for the little tidbits of information there. We really appreciate it, Takuda-san. And with that, I think we were kind of coming to the end of our pre-launch community update. So we hope you've all enjoyed it. Joe, anything you want to say before we pass over to Takuda-san and Patrick?
Yeah, give us a character creator at least. Give me the character
I just want to
creator
thank everybody
again.
out there for sharing their
Give
feedback.
me the character creator.
I know we say a lot that we are listening, and hopefully you guys feel that way after seeing all the updates here. And definitely want to take the chance to thank Takuda-san for joining us. This has been super informative, and I know you're super busy, and the team is extremely busy getting the game ready for launch. So we very much appreciate it, and I'd like to toss it over to you for any closing remarks here.
今日は非常に珍しい機会として直接いろんなお話を聞けて、徳田さんにはこの発売直前のご多忙中の時期にこれだけお時間いただいて非常に感謝しております。最後に徳田さんからユーザーへのメッセージなどあればお願いします。
はい、まずこのような直接ユーザーの皆さんに声を届ける機会を作ってくれた、ジョーとジョの、パトリック、またサポートをしてくれた皆さんに、感謝、申し上げます。
Firstly, let me take the chance to thank you guys, Jono and Joe, the community managers, as well
Patrick,
as Patrick.
me.
It's always slightly weird to refer to yourself when you're translating, but let me go with it.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you for your support in setting up this opportunity today.
イギリスとアメリカ、日本と、3拠点で時差も大きい中、すごく大変な作業だと思いますが、ありがとうございました。
Yeah, we're working across 3 time zones here, so I'm in Tokuda-san, that is in Japan. Jono and Patrick are in the UK, and Joe is in the US, so it's difficult to coordinate across so many time zones. So thank you for your work on that.
また改めまして、OBT に、ご参加いただき、さまざまなご意見をいただきましたハンターの皆さんに、感謝申し上げます。OBT ではたくさんの声をいただいてからですね、チームの働きだったり製品のクオリティの向上というのは、本当に目覚ましいものがありまして、今もそれが続いています。ご期待いただけるってことがこんなにも力になるんだなってことを、改めて実感しています。
Just another, to repeat my previous sentiments, thank you so much to all the players who took part in the OBT.
These are just the
it's
thank
such a valuable
yous
opportunity for us to get your feedback and hear your voices, and we've taken that back to the team. It's become great motivation for them to keep working on the game's quality as we reach the final stages of development.
Final stages.
What I've seen, they're doing great things, and there's some really great eye-opening stuff happening with the game, and we're continuing to work on that. So again, thank you for the opportunity to implement your feedback in the game.
It really is a pleasure. And once again, to echo Joe, thank you to Takuda-san for your time. We know how incredibly busy yourself and the team are. Thank you, Patrick, for translating for us today. It's great to have you with us again after you joined us at Gamescom. And, from all of us here as well, thank you to you, the community, our awesome players. I mean, your feedback from the beta, your patience, your passion, it really is incredible. So thank you,
Jenna.
So much.
Thank you.
And, does anyone have any ideas the best way to round this off? Joe, perhaps?
We wouldn't dare do a happy hunting across multiple time zones. You'll see the lag, but we should do it. We should try it, right?
All right. Do you want to give us a countdown?
ちょっと最後にどうしてもタイムラグが発生すると思うんですけど、人狩り行こうぜの英語になるハッピーハンティングで最後の掛け声でカウントダウンの後にお願いします。
Okay.
Okay, I'll do the countdown. All right, ready? All right, 3, 2, 1. Happy hunting!
You know, good enough. That's pretty good.
We tried.
Bye, everyone.
All right, thank you, everybody.
One more.
So let's just kind of line a little bit.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Happy hunting!
Okay, that was better. That was good.
It's better, I think.
Yeah. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
He's so cute.
Thank you.
He's so cute. He's cute as hell. There we go, everybody. Lots of information. Lots of information indeed. So yeah, we might not even be getting a demo. And the thing with Wilds, like, it has been very different in the way that they have put things out. Normally there's a demo about a month or less before the game comes out, and we normally have 2 demos. So everyone was kind of expecting a beta and then a demo, but they don't normally do a beta. They normally do a demo, whereas this was obviously very much so like, we need you guys to test the network, crossplay, all of that stuff. And they're doing a lot of changes from the beta to the game coming out. So with all of that in consideration, yeah, I mean, it makes sense that there's like not going to be a demo or a beta, because they're not going to be able to, in case people don't know how this works, they have to create basically a slice of the game to give us to play. So if they wanted to do another beta or a demo in which is basically saying this is the game, this is the finished game, they wouldn't be able to put all of these changes in that whilst also finishing on working on finishing the game. So that makes sense. They said that, you know, they haven't written off the possibility of just bringing back the open beta test so that we could just play it again. But yeah, no, it makes sense. We haven't had this happen with Monster Hunter before. Normally it's this is basically the finished game. You get a taste of playing it, bada bing, bada boom. It's not normally we're making a ton of changes to weapons and hit stop and the way that audio works and there's a bugs that you guys found and networking, and yeah. So there very well may be not another time to play. However, we might be getting a benchmark tool to be able to test on PC. I also wouldn't be super surprised if they brought back just the character creator in some kind of way. I would love that. I might even be like, hey, can we just have the character creator? Because I would love to spend more time working on my character for when the game comes out. Big changes to Lance, Insect Glaive, Switch Axe, Sword and Shield honestly just looks a lot smoother in the way that it's moving, whereas the other weapons are significantly different. Got to see Insect Glaive having an offset attack, which was very cool. Lance is looking super guardy. Bow's adjustments, I really like them. I think it makes sense. I love that they showed us a little bit more about crafting down a weapon tree, where if a weapon at the beginning of the tree has speed sharpening, as you upgrade it, it will still have speed sharpening, but there will be more skills added to that weapon. What else? Performance already, they're saying performance mode on PlayStation is already hitting 60 FPS. We got confirmation of a PS5 Pro enhanced patch day one patch for PS5 Pro. So that's cool. They're also working on bringing down the like recommended specs for your PC hardware. So they are working on that. And of course, just making it perform better in general. What else? That was like the big things, right? You know what? I don't want to see anymore. Now that the Game Awards has passed and this has happened, I don't want to see anymore. I think in terms of monsters being revealed, I'd be very happy if we don't see any other monsters. I'd be a-okay with that, or other biomes. I'm fine with that. it would be cool to see maybe an example of like the decoration system. They could show that off. But yeah, if we're at the point where we're like, hey, look, we're done. This is it. I would be very happy with that. Private lobbies is a thing that's always in Monster Hunter, so yeah, I didn't bring that up. But yeah, private lobbies we already knew would be a thing in Wilds. Yeah. So in terms of new information, I think we covered all of the new information that we got from there. So good stuff. The weapon changes are huge. Huge. If any of you mains end up looking over the weapon changes again, let me know what you think about them, because I would be very, very, very curious what you think. But yeah, man, I'm glad. I hope we don't get, and it doesn't sound like we're gonna get, a demo where we fight Arkveld. I think it fundamentally goes against the kind of monster that he is. Normally we do get to fight the flagship in a demo, but with him being this like mysterious monster that we're learning more about throughout the game and uncovering what he is and who he is and where he's from and how he ended up like that, I think it would be really weird to just be like, here's Arkveld, go fight him. I think it would be weird. So, you know what? I hope it's it. I hope that's it. We got 70 days, everybody. 70 days. Dude.